Hi everybody, my name is Bill Weaver and I'm honored to be one of your pastors here at Reynoldsburg Community Church. This has been such an important season for us because we've been in the midst of spiritual disciplines while maintaining our daily walk and reading the Bible through the year. And it has been so great to be able to hear from so many of you about how these spiritual disciplines have been important in giving you life. That spiritual discipline of worship and finding time every day for 6 days to just worship God. That spiritual discipline of fasting, of being willing to feel some want and some angst and some hurt, but then just declaring that God, you are more than enough. And it's been great to hear what some of you have fasted from food and chocolate or beverages, but some of you fasted from noise. You actually created silent spaces. Some of you thought that this was going to be a good time to fight against anxiety, so try to fast through that. Some of us, like myself, we fasted from social media. It's been amazing to hear those stories. And I know that this past week of prayer, the spiritual discipline of prayer, has caused all of us to hone in and to focus and to see God in the midst of our chaos. To be able to cry out to God in the midst of our chaos. To pray for our world, to pray for our nation, to pray for our community, Reynoldsburg, Pickerington, Pataskala, Gahanna, Columbus, and so many other places. Praying for our church, praying for one another. I know many of you still pray for me at 3 o'clock every day. I know that this past week of the spiritual discipline of prayer came at a very important time, and it was desperately needed. I know it was a blessing for you, just like it was for me. This week, we're going to be talking about the spiritual discipline of journaling. Now, I know journaling may be one of the weird spiritual disciplines, the odd one out of this bunch. In fact, some of you are sitting there thinking, I had no idea that journaling would be considered a spiritual discipline. But it is. Because journaling has a way of, again, focusing us, centering us on God and His presence and reminding us that He is with us, just like all the disciplines are meant to do. I heard a phrase once while in seminary, spiritual disciplines are always waiting for you. The spiritual disciplines are always waiting for you. So this spiritual discipline of journaling is always waiting for you. But maybe for a lot of us, this is the first time journaling is inviting us to participate and to do. Journaling is powerful. Not only does journaling lead to other writings, right? We have stacks and stacks and stacks of books and authors, experiences, history, even the Bible itself. It all started with journaling. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, I'm not a writer. I don't have anything to write. My handwriting is horrible anyway. I wouldn't be able to read what I wrote. Some of you may be saying, I'm more of a thinker. I'm more of a processor. So writing's not my thing. I want to challenge you. For the next 6 days, let's journal. And let's see how writing can be your thing for the next 6 days. Because you want to know what journaling does, this spiritual discipline of journaling, it does this. Journaling makes faith visible. Journaling makes faith visible. What you write down, it becomes something that you see, that you read. It's concrete. It's right there. It becomes visible. Now, there are things that happen in this life that we need to be able to acknowledge, and it's more than silence, and it's probably even at times more than just words that are spoken. It needs to be something I see from me, my hand, my thoughts, my words. Write it out. And the faith becomes visible. You know, I've been going through a difficult time with Guillain-Barré. And as I started healing up, one of the things that I was invited to was to journal. And like many of you, I laughed at that. I said, I don't write. I'm tired of writing. I have been writing for a long time with all those classes I've done. But they encouraged me, this is different. Begin to journal so you can see all the progress you've made. Comparing the month of April and what I wrote down there to the month of August and what I wrote there, you can visibly see the difference as you read and compare. This isn't just during physical times of difficulty, this is also spiritual times. Chaos, questions, celebrations, giving praise and thanks. Whatever you're going through, when you write it down, it becomes visible. And you can begin to visibly see God at work over time when you journal, because journaling makes faith visible. So that's my invitation to you. Spiritual disciplines are waiting for you. Journaling is waiting for you. Let's spend the next 6 days and journal, and let's begin to see the faith become visible together. Now, to do this, I'm going to show us in a very interesting and amazing book why journaling can be important. It's in the book of Habakkuk, or Habakkuk. He's a prophet, but he's a different prophet. He's within the last decade or two of the southern kingdom, Israel's existence. Babylon is coming, judgment is coming. And Habakkuk knows it. He knows it. But the way he knows it is because he's always crying out. But interestingly, what makes him different is Habakkuk isn't crying out to the people, and he's not crying out to the king. He's crying out to God. So what makes Habakkuk interesting? Habakkuk is more of a prophetic book of lament. Habakkuk is lamenting and crying out to God. And that's what the whole book is about. He's not writing to people, and he's not writing to a king. He is writing, crying out, lamenting to God. Now here's some of his laments. The leadership is corrupt. People are being treated like animals, so a lot of dehumanizing is going on. Idol worship. A lot of other gods are being worshipped and lifted up, be it deities or even objects and things. And no one's listening to Torah or the Word of God or the Bible anymore. Whew! I am glad we don't see that today. We do. We do. The same problems then. We see them today too, don't we? And so Habakkuk's first lament is crying out, look what's going on, God, so what are you going to do about it? He's lamenting. And God responds, I'm sending an army, and we're going to judge Israel. And everything that's gone wrong will eventually be made right. But how this is going to happen is through defeat and exile, which now ushers in Habakkuk's lament number 2. Babylon? Babylon is your answer, God? Babylon is worse than Israel. Babylon dehumanizes people even more through exile and slavery. Idol worship, they don't even believe in the God of Israel. Leadership being corrupt? Holy cow, it's Babylon. They're known for being corrupt. They're known for being violent. And word of the Lord, they don't care about the word of the Lord. So God, lament number 2, we got problems here, and your solution is to allow a bigger problem to come in and judge us and take us away? Have any of you prayed and lamented like that before? Because that's where Habakkuk is. Then the Lord invites him. What I'm about to say, write this down and see my faithfulness for yourself. You know what God invited Habakkuk to do? Journal. You're going to write this down. You're going to journal this so that you can make what I'm about to say visible. So let's see what Habakkuk writes down, what Habakkuk journals. Are you ready? Off we go. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet. I would add the lamenting prophet. On Shigionoth. You don't know how to say it either, so show me grace. Lord, I have heard of your fame. I stand in awe of your deeds. Repeat them in our day. In our time, make them known. And in wrath, in this midst of judgment and trouble in Babylon, remember mercy. So this is Habakkuk's first line. He wants to start it off by acknowledging God and remembering. But you know what he's doing? He's doing this. Journaling gives space for honest remembering. Honest remembering. Writing our fears invites God's faithfulness. So he's remembering that God is still on the throne, God is still reigning, but he also acknowledges that there's something really to be fearful about, that coming wrath. Remember that last line, that coming wrath. Remember us, show us your mercy. Journaling gives space for that honest remembering. It invites us to remember God's faithfulness, even in the midst of fear. Journaling, as we're writing down, it's a time to be honest. We're not trying to impress anybody here. We're just trying to make what we're experiencing become visible and make our faith become visible. It gives space for honest remembering. I remember that God is still God and I'm not, but I also remember that there's some difficulties in life, but I want to remember God. The text continues. I heard and my heart pounded. My lips quivered at the sound. Now this is what's interesting in terms of this sound. One of the things that Habakkuk spent time to write about was Exodus. Right in between what we just read in here, God describes the Exodus and how I rescued people from slavery, took care of armies. Don't you remember then? I'll do it now. How I rescued people then, I'll rescue now. And I'm also going to get ready for the anointed one to come. And so as Habakkuk is hearing all that, he hears those stories. His heart is pounding. His lips is quivering, even at the sound of remembering the Exodus. Because sometimes remembering causes something in our hearts, right? And decay crept in my bones. See, now we're seeing that word awesome again. How great, but also how difficult. Decay crept into my bones and my legs trembled as I'm seeing the difficulty that's before us, yet trying to remember that God is faithful. Yet, great word, yet. Even in the midst of the difficulty and the fear and the trembling, something else I'm going to do. Yet I will wait patiently for the day of calamity to come. Habakkuk? That sounds like a horrible idea. I've lived in Florida. We had hurricane season. And when a hurricane's coming, you don't just patiently wait for calamity. There's something you should be doing to get ready, or maybe getting out of there. Habakkuk wants to be countercultural and remember the Lord, and it's leading him to wait patiently for the day of calamity to come on the nation invading us. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls. Notice, Habakkuk is trying to just wait patiently for the Lord, even though everything around him is saying different. Habakkuk is trying to wait patiently on the Lord, and yet everything looks like it's falling apart. The farms aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. The people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. The cattle aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Nothing is going right. And you're trying to remind me of the promises of Exodus? So yet I will wait patiently, even though everything else seems to be falling apart. And this is where journaling can help us. It's one thing to say it, but I need to see it, right? This is where journaling can help us. Journaling helps us name our struggles and hurts. What's written down can be lifted up. Being able to write it out, write it down, make it visible. It's coming from me and my heart, my struggles, my pain. I write it down. But then you know what I'm able to do now that it's visible and I see it? I have something concrete now to lift up. God, here are my words. Here are my hurts and my thoughts. They're right here, concrete, in writing. I give them to you. I lift them to you. Maybe for some of us, when we practice journaling this week and we have a book or just a sheet of paper, or maybe we use our phones and use the note app, maybe we have to physically, after writing it down, lift it up to God. What we write down can be lifted up. Journaling helps us name our struggles and our hurts, and then give them to God. The text continues. Yet, and there it is again, yet, if everything's falling apart, calamity's coming my way, I have a nation that's not being faithful, and maybe another nation that's going to crash in. I have all this distress and chaos. Yet, I have a crossroads. But I'm going to put a mile marker here and choose this way. That's the power of the word yet. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. So powerful. I wrote it down, the struggles, the hurt, the pain. I lifted it up, and now I need to be able to declare that word yet. Yet, I will still focus and turn to God. So you know what journaling is inviting us to do? It's this. Journaling anchors us in trust amid our circumstances. It anchors us. It reminds us. It reminds us of who to trust. Writing can declare the joy our hearts choose to believe. Family, I don't know if you've been there before. But sometimes in the midst of chaos and pain and hurt, it's hard to speak out loud what we're trying to believe. Sometimes we can't really talk. Sometimes we're at that place, right? We don't want to talk. We don't want to talk to anybody. And we don't really want to be in a place where we're listening to people. We just need to be alone. Journaling meets you when you're alone. And in the midst of being alone, you can write out what you trust. Write out the calamity, write out the pain and the fear, right? What we were just talking about. Don't hide from that. Name that. But then also write out and remind yourself, who do you trust? Where's your anchor? What's keeping you steady and strong? Sometimes journaling provides the voice we need when we don't have a voice and can't speak. Being able to write something down speaks, perhaps when we can't. And when we do that, it can declare a joy that's difficult for us to speak, difficult for us to sing, difficult for us to declare, but we can write it down and visibly see it for ourselves. I may not be able to sit here and verbally declare, yet I will, but I can write it down. Even in the midst, I will trust. I will praise. The faith becomes visible. And then the text concludes. The sovereign Lord is my strength. Who's Habakkuk's strength? The Lord, the sovereign Lord, the one who reigns over everything and all things. He, the Lord, makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. And this was all written for the director of music on my stringed instrument. Folks were meant to worship this. Use these as lyrics to worship, to cry out. But notice, we wouldn't have this worship song if Habakkuk didn't write out and journal. It wouldn't have existed. This became visible for people like us because Habakkuk was willing to write it down. And notice how he ended. The sovereign Lord is my strength. These are one of the moments where I have to ask you, who's the hero? Who's the hero? It's the Lord. Now, we live in a culture that wants to say, you're your own hero. And friends, I'm going to tell you something. You're not. You're not. The Lord's the hero. Jesus is the hero. So when it comes to journaling, we're invited to do this. Journaling reminds us of God's strength and salvation. Journaling reminds us who the true hero was, is, and needs to be. Now watch, looking back helps us to move forward. Looking back helps us actually to move forward. And I know that doesn't seem to make sense, but when you journal, when you write down and you look back and you see what you went through, you saw the struggles, you saw the hurts, you saw the pains, and then you see for yourself how God met you and was your hero, brought you through it. It helps you to keep going just one more day, doesn't it? Looking back helps us to move forward, to keep going, because it declares that God is our strength. Friends, part of journaling is humbling ourselves enough to be able to declare, I'm not the hero. God is the hero. God is my hero. God is going to be the hero for this church. God is going to be the hero for this city, for this nation, for this world. And when I journal, that faith, that statement becomes visible over time. So in summary today, here's the invitation. The spiritual discipline of journaling makes faith visible. It makes the faith visible, especially over time. You begin to see for yourself how God has worked. Journaling gives space for honest remembering. Let's not pretend everything was great. There was calamity, there was pain, there was conflict, there was hurt. And there is still today. So let's be honest about what we're remembering and seeing. Journaling helps us name our struggles and hurts. Write it down. But journaling also should bring us to a point that what we're writing down we can lift up to God, and thus anchoring us in trust amid our circumstances. And then journaling reminds us of God's strength and salvation. It reminds us that God is the hero, and over time, we can see how heroic God has been, but also how heroic He is, even today, and how heroic He will be. So here's our action step in regards to journaling. Now, before I read this, I just want to take a moment. I want to name it. I know journaling is the weird one out of all these spiritual disciplines. It's the odd one of the bunch. No one naturally thinks of journaling as a spiritual discipline like we do of worship or prayer or fasting. I know that. And I'll tell you, this is going to be a challenge for me too. I don't journal every day. I'm lucky to get it once a week. So journaling, I know, it's weird. It's not natural. Some of us, we haven't written things down in a long time. I know. But I'm convinced that when we journal, when we write things down, it makes the faith visible. And I just want to invite all of us. Let's all meet this challenge of journaling. And I'm talking to myself too. I want to rise to the challenge. The spiritual disciplines are waiting for us. So let's jump in and let's just do this for the next 6 days. Let's journal together. All the honesty, all the hurts, fears, but also our hopes. And God's our hero. Lift it up to Him. Let's begin to allow the faith to become visible through our writing or typing and texting over the next 6 days. Now, some of you do journal. This isn't a difficult ask. You're ready to jump in. You don't need any prompts whatsoever. You can just pick up where you left off. Some of you, maybe you're kind of like me. I hear you, so I can give it a whirl. I don't really know where to begin. And some of us, we have no idea what to do. So that's what this action step is meant to do. It's meant to perhaps give us just some concrete steps, some things where we can start. Now, I would invite all of us, even my pro journal writers, to do this as well. So we're all writing together with the same focus and what we're looking for. So the action step, for the next 6 days, Monday to Saturday, let your journal be where your faith becomes visible. So days 1 through 3, begin to ask these questions and answer them through journaling. Why do I need Jesus? Why do I need the Global Methodist Church? And why do I need Reynoldsburg Community Church? The reason why this is important is sometimes we don't think about why we show up day after day, week after week. Why is it important to be here at Reynoldsburg, be a part of it? Why is it important for some of you to join us online week after week after week? Why is that important to you? Why do I need Jesus? Why does Jesus need to be my hero? Now, I'm gonna give you a little tidbit here. Some of you are going to be totally offended by what I'm about to say, but that's okay. If the only reason you need Jesus is to go to heaven, that might be a starting point, but that's not the only reason why Jesus should be your hero. There's more to Jesus saving you than just what happens after you die. Now again, it's a good starting point. We should be wondering what happens to us, and there should be a fear of what comes next, but that's not the only reason Jesus should be our hero. There's more to Jesus. So spend some time those first 3 days. Why do I need Jesus? Why do I need the Global Methodist Church and the teachings and the grace and the theology? And in person, why do I need Reynoldsburg Community Church? Begin there. And then days 4 through 6, let's expand our view. Let's not make it just about us. Why does the world need Jesus? Why does the world need Jesus to be the hero? And why does the world need the Global Methodist Church? What is it that the world needs that maybe our denomination can offer? And why does the world need Reynoldsburg Community Church? What's out there that we can share? What's going on in our city, in our nation, in our world that perhaps our church can step in and help. Why would the world need Reynoldsburg Community Church? What's going on out there that perhaps from here we can share? So days 1 through 3 is very personal. Why do I? Days 4 through 6, let's expand our view a little bit and begin to ask, why does the world? Why does the world? Now, some of you, you may branch off and start writing about other things along the way, but I would encourage us, let's all try to reside in here over the next 6 days. Let this be the starting point. And let's begin to make the faith become visible to us. Join us. Jump in. Be a part of journaling this week. And let's turn our eyes and focus on God and see our hero move and at work. May it be so.